Jewish Capital EPO 3 Part 1. The Hidden Side of UN, IMF, WHO, and the Digital Control Network. Welcome. This is the third episode of our 5-part series on American Jewish capital. Today, we will examine the hidden mechanics behind the UN, IMF, and WHO, the emerging global digital control network, and the changing international order in a multipolar era. Financial networks do not merely exert influence within a single nation. Like the United States, they operate across borders, shaping international organizations, global financial architectures, diplomatic systems, and the world order itself. In essence, a vast structural governance system operates behind the scenes, heavily aligned with international capital networks. Let us begin with the influence exerted over the United Nations and its affiliated bodies. The UN is widely viewed as the primary international platform for global peace and cooperation. However, a substantial portion of its operating budget is supplied by major governments and private global foundations, shaping how resolutions, human rights, investigations, and economic sanctions are prioritized. A primary example is the persistent institutional impasse regarding regional conflicts. While General Assembly resolutions may repeatedly pass with broad international support, binding action in the Security Council is routinely blocked through veto power exercised by major allies. In this way, indirect structural influence leverages the prestige of international consensus to maintain specific geopolitical frameworks. The two main pillars of global economic governance, the International Monetary Fund (IMF) and the World Bank, operate in a similar fashion. These institutions maintain deep, structural ties with global financial centers. Their executive boards are heavily represented by leadership from Western financial hubs, and their core economic policy blueprints rely on papers produced by aligned think tanks in New York and Washington. Furthermore, structural adjustment programs attached to bailout packages often require fiscal austerity, deregulation, and privatization. While framed as economic stabilization, these conditions frequently facilitate the acquisition of sovereign assets by multinational capital. This influence extends into non-governmental organizations and human rights groups. Major international charities, including Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, rely significantly on grants from private global foundations. This reliance can produce selective focus. Certain state violations receive intense international coverage, while actions by strategic allies are often minimized or contextualized. Similarly, corporate human rights practices tied to major capital networks rarely face systemic scrutiny. The World Economic Forum in Davos provides another key insight into global governance. The annual meeting in Davos is far more than a simple networking event for economists. It functions as an informal forum where corporate leaders, asset managers, tech executives, and international officials align on global agendas. Leaders from firms like BlackRock, Goldman Sachs, and Morgan Stanley convene with tech giants like Google and Microsoft, alongside IMF and UN officials. The consensus formed at these summits often sets the policy trajectory for global markets and governance for years to come. The lesson for modern observers is clear. The international community may appear to be a framework of equal multilateral cooperation, but behind the scenes lies a complex network driven by capital, lobbying, and long-term strategic planning. To understand global dynamics, we must look beyond surface diplomacy and analyze how these structural networks design and operate world affairs, from national governments to international bodies and multinational capital. This overarching architecture shapes public discourse and global policy. When we speak of the international community, we often assume an impartial global framework. Yet, within the operating structures of the WHO, IMF, and UN lies an intricate system of indirect influence. Why do major financial networks invest so heavily in international organizations? Because international bodies represent a unique form of non-state authority. capable of establishing global standards. They offer a highly efficient mechanism for governance operating not through military force, but through aid packages, binding treaties, and policy recommendations. Though presented as advisory guidelines, these standards carry immense practical compliance leverage over sovereign nations.